On the earlier day, one Friday morning, Aduke gave birth to twins. Their father was a merchant, so he wasn't around. But as soon as he read the letter sent to him, he came down to welcome his newborn children. Their names were Arik and Ashake. As the twins grew, everyone loved them and would always play with the adults in the village. They were both healthy and beautiful. Arik grew more pretty and pretty every day, but Ashake grew taller and slimmer. Their mom was concerned by this, but after some time, she grew to accept Ashake and how she was. Even though she was still beautiful, Ashake was often bullied by others because of how tall she was. No one wanted to see themselves beside her. Because of how everyone treated her, Arik thought it was also right to treat her the same way. Ashake was loved just by her parents, and despite every other person's effort to shame her, she always defended herself. Sometimes, however, she would cry so bitterly in her room when no one was watching. One day, their mother told the two of them to go fetch water in the stream. Unknowing to Ashake, Arik had called her group of friends to beat Ashake. And as they walked to the stream, the girls appeared, and after a huge argument, they beat Ashake. She was injured and was bedridden for 3 days. When she got better, her self-esteem reduced. She smiled less and would always stay at home to avoid trouble with anyone. Everyone didn't like her because of how tall she was. She was always walking alone and avoiding eye contact with people because she knew what would happen if they did. One day, she went to the forest near her house to sit and sing, as singing was her favorite thing to do. As she sang, she saw a boy who praised her for singing so beautifully. His name was Okiade. Then they became friends, and for weeks they would meet at the edge of the forest to talk. Arik noticed that her sister was often happy and decided to find out why. She realized what her joy was and decided to collect the boy from her sister. She wanted to do something to make him mad at Ashake. One night, she saw them together and she was very jealous. Ashake had told Okiade how mean her sisters were, and because of the fact that her parents were never around, she was always bullying her. Sometimes her mother would follow their father to his business in the other village. The boy told her not to worry and that he was going to always be by her side. But this promise didn't last long, as Arik plotted to stop them from talking. Ashake and Okiade would always send each other letters, as Okiade was living 3 villages away from hers. She didn't know so much about him, just that he liked her and his name. She didn't ask him and was also waiting for him to tell her. Sometimes she wouldn't hear from him for days, but they would talk through letters. This went on for months. In the plot to make Okiade stop talking to Ashake, she wrote a letter telling Okiade in Ashake's handwriting and told him she didn't want to talk to him again as she had seen someone better. In the letter, she insulted him and called him all sorts of names, and that her parents would insult her for talking to him and that she never wanted to see him again. Ashake didn't know anything, and after not seeing Okiade for weeks, she wondered what had gone wrong. She sent him letters to ask about his welfare, but nothing happened. She didn't see him, and her letters weren't replied to. She was worried. She regretted that she didn't know or ask about his personal life, and she gradually went back to how she was. Depressed and sad, this continued for weeks. Her parents came back after a month of traveling for business and noticed how she was always crying. She thought Okiade had abandoned her and didn't even know the reason why it seemed like she was a pest to be avoided. Arik was happy that her sister's happiness was gone and would always add salt to her injury, telling her she was incapable of being loved by anyone. She would insult her and call her all sorts of names. Ashake was sad and broken but decided to move on. But the pain was too much. She would, at any point, just start crying. Everyone insulted her and called her weak. After 2 weeks, she received a letter from someone asking to meet her in the village square in 3 days. She didn't know who this person was, but decided to meet them in the hopes that this person knew Okiade. They met, and the person told her that he was the palace consort from the village away and was the one always delivering Prince Okiade's letter. He noticed that after the letter she gave the prince had been feeling down and dejected. His father, the king of Agumbiade, was sad that his son wasn't happy and told him to look for the person he was always sending letters to. She was happy. She told him she was worried he wasn't replying to her letter and asked which letter had started this. He told her the day, and she realized she hadn't sent any letter that day. Before he left her, she promised to get to the root of the matter. After 2 days of thinking back and forth, she decided to see her sister. She confronted Arik, and Arik confessed to her evil deed. Their mom was disappointed and slapped Arik. Ashake immediately sent a letter to meet up with this man so she could tell him. In the letter, she explained everything that had happened and told him they needed to meet up again. The man came back the next day and told her that the king requested to see her. She told her parents and they let her go. When she got there, she met Okiade. He was slim and wasn't looking happy. As soon as she saw him, she immediately burst into tears and cried bitterly for putting him through all that had happened. They reconciled, and after 3 months, he asked for her hand in marriage. She was happy. She told her parents, who also accepted, but gave the mandate that she couldn't marry until she clocked 20. She was 18 at the time. The king agreed to the arrangement and waited. The incident made Arik apologize to her sister. She eventually forgave her after months of pleading and crying. She said she was going to make it up to her and be a better person. Ashake forgave her and moved on from all the bad she had done to her. People in the village respected her and were even jealous of her, but weren't bold enough to talk to or insult the future princess of Adegbite. People in the village respected her and were even jealous of her, but weren't bold enough to talk to or insult the future princess of Adegbite. After 2 years, she eventually married the prince and left the village.